The International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance, in its report, Global State of Democracy, has placed India in the list of democracies that have experienced a decline in their democratic tenets over the last 10 years. Earlier this year, Sweden's V Dem Institute categorized India as an electoral autocracy, and Freedom House called India partly free with a score of 67 out of 100. So, should Indians be concerned about the quality of democracy that we enjoy? Or is it a case of foreign organizations not being able to appreciate the nuances of Indian system of governance and its societal values? We talked to VHP International Working President Sri Alok Kumar and CPI ML leader and well-known activist Kavita Krishnan to know their views.
I think that rather than seeing it as a test and being resentful of it, and say, who is anybody to judge our democracy or whatever, I think that, as you put it, we should see it as a tool to actually strengthen our democracy. I wish that such kinds of reports, such kinds of report cards were available to us throughout India's 75 years of being an independent country.
In a progressive world, I would not say that the other countries do not have a right to study about Indian democracy and make evaluations. We do not need their certificates. We do not believe, we do not depend upon their value judgments. We do not need their commendation. But if somebody wishes to make a study about the state of democracy in India or on any subject, then I would have no objection, personally speaking.
So internet shutdowns do indicate a very, very dangerous threat to that democracy. And the fact that India has been so proactive in shutting down the internet several times, especially in areas like Kashmir, where we have deprived Kashmiri people for more for very prolonged periods of the use of the internet, and we do so over and over again at the drop of a hat. I think these are all things for which the world is right to hold us accountable and judge us.
The right to freedom of speech and expression in every democracy, in every country, has its obvious limitations. You can't incite violence. You can't defame people. You cannot speak a language that hurts the sentiments of others without being reformers. And the cases of internet shutdowns are such cases. There is a very well-placed mechanism to decide what is to be shut out. There are remedies provided against it. So therefore, India has a very sound structure to defend the right to freedom and to prevent it from becoming a license. Democracy exists when we respect each other's sentiments. And therefore, the protection of cow via legislation is by no means a reflection on our democracy. As far as the conversion is concerned, nobody has demanded an absolute ban on conversion. No. The law only requires that the conversion, which is not brought about by a change of conscience, but by allurement or fear or deception, such conversion only is sought to be restricted and banned. In no country, to my knowledge, there is a right to seek tukde of the country. There is no right to convince that we shall break this country into 100 countries. I don't think that any of these laws is an adverse reflection on our democracy.
The idea that you get to decide, and that the existence of these laws has been used for Hindu supremacist violence and killings, and the name of and the pretext of preventing cow slaughter, and Muslims have been and Dalits have been the overwhelming majority of the victims of these. So no doubt these point towards a backsliding democracy. If the anti-conversion laws had existed in Dr. Ambedkar's lifetime, he would have been arrested for saying, "I'm born a Hindu, but I will not die a Hindu," and for encouraging Dalits at the Mahad Satyagraha to adopt Buddhism. And they are also being used to criminalize interfaith marriages, to make interfaith relationships and marriages much more difficult, and to invite violence against them. And I think that it is a shame, 75 years of Indian democracy, and we still have sedition laws. What is this? And they have been around and been used by regimes all along. And they are absolutely, that's absolutely unacceptable, no matter which party or government has done it.
The question of marital rape is not concerned with democracy. Every country has its own systems. Marital rape leads a floodgate to false complaints. And it would be onerous to decide, rather impossible to decide what actually happened.
Explain here that this is not just about criminalizing marital rape. Indian rape laws they define rape. What is rape? And then they introduce a specific exception for complaints by a wife against her husband for those same acts. So there is an exception there. There is nobody is demanding a separate law to criminalize marital rape. The propaganda by so-called men's rights groups that domestic violence laws are misused is complete bullshit, because actually they are underused. Most women do not complain until it is literally the last resort. The point is its existence. The existence of that exception means that there is a state sanction for marital rape, and that is the problem.
Farmers are protesting. They protested. They succeeded. They persisted for more than a year. They wanted the 3 farm laws to be withdrawn, which were passed by both houses of the parliament by a majority. The majority party remains the same. Their numbers remain the same. Yet, they bow down to the protest. They bow down to the public sentiment, repeal the laws. That shows the magic and strength of our democracy. It's not only a game of numbers. The numbers in the parliament are on the side of the people who brought the law. It is consensus. It is understanding the emotions, understanding the feelings of the farmers who were opposing it, acceding to it. I think that the farmers' protest strengthened our democracy.
I don't think they've cited the farmers' protest as a site of backsliding, but they have cited from the reports that I saw, they have cited the government's attacks on the farmers' protest as a sign of democratic backsliding. Namely, the fact that the laws were passed without consulting opposition, through a voice vote, without allowing any debate in parliament. The fact that when farmers protested, they were stopped, and they were stopped with violence by the police. They were stopped at Delhi's borders. There were these iron spikes and whatnot put up to try and prevent them from entering. So that is, I think, what they are referring to when that's what I think the report is referring to. Not to the fact of protest itself, but to the fact that protests were needed in the first place because this government did not even observe basic parliamentary democracy. The main reason is the electoral bonds. The electoral bonds that have been introduced by the current regime through parliament, again, with very little understanding of those bonds, very little debate, very little discussion. That is a shame. And the fact that the Supreme Court has not heard the challenge to the electoral bonds with urgency is also a sign of the backsliding democracy, because your institutions to protect the constitution are not working with the sense of urgency that they should. The other thing is also the use of the EVM machines. See, the EVM machines, I'm not talking here about any kind of EVM conspiracy theory, this, that. I don't care whether or not they have actually been misused. I don't know and I don't care. That is not the issue. The issue is that there are unanswered questions about the functioning of EVM machines, which the Election Commission has failed to answer satisfactorily. The Election Commission's allowing in election after election the most horrendous kind of anti-Muslim hate speech, and refusing to take action against candidates and campaigners who have indulged in such hate speech. I think that is one of the top signs of a vitiated electoral climate, vitiated climate in which Indian elections are being held.
Some of the Western powers, some of the left intellectuals, the Christian organizations, their understanding is that if a particular side wins, the democracy is strengthened. If a particular other side wins, that is the loss of democracy. They may have their views. We do not agree with them. The question begins with a biased presumption against the present ruling dispensation. I totally disagree with the theory made in the question.